Okay, think about money for a sec. That paper in your wallet, maybe just the numbers on your screen. How did that stuff, which is kind of worthless on its own, get so powerful? Building cities, funding, well, everything. Today we're diving deep into Yuval Noah Harari's big idea about this. He calls money humanity's greatest fiction, an intersubjective reality. Basically, it only exists because we all agree it does. It's the one story almost everyone buys into. And understanding that story is key to understanding how humans cooperate on a massive scale. Our mission, to trace how it went from a simple need to, well, this powerful, kind of tricky thing it is today. Right, so let's rewind. Picture a world completely without money. Back in hunter-gatherer times, cooperation was all personal, face-to-face. It was like an economy of favors. If I help you with the hunt today, you'll help me tomorrow. It worked, but only in small, tight-knit groups.
Exactly. But then things changed. The agricultural revolution happened, societies got bigger, more complex, people started specializing, and that led straight into what Harari calls the barter bottleneck.
Ah, the old, I have shoes, you have apples, but you don't need shoes right now problem.
Precisely. That double coincidence of wants, it just massively slowed down trade, economic growth. People desperately needed a better way, a way to sort of manufacture trust between strangers.
So money wasn't really a tech breakthrough, was it? It was more mental, an intellectual leap. Its power comes from doing three key things, right?
That's right. First, it's a universal medium of exchange. You can turn almost anything into money, and money into almost anything else, super flexible.
Okay, makes sense. And second,
it's a store of value. You can't really save up perishable goods like tons of bananas, but money, you can hold on to that wealth. It's like trading with your future self.
Right. And the third one, a unit of account.
Yeah, basically a universal measuring stick. It lets you compare the value of, well, everything, apples and oranges, shoes and houses. Simplifies the whole economic calculation thing enormously.
And the form of money kept changing too, didn't it? Getting less physical.
Absolutely. It's a journey of dematerialization, of abstraction. Started with actual goods like barley in ancient Sumer, or precious metals like, remember Joseph being sold for 20 silver shekels? That was raw silver weighed out.
Wow, okay.
Then, around 640 BCE, the Lydians came up with coins, backed by the king's decree, not just the metal value that's kind of fiat money beginnings.
And today?
Today, what? Over 90% of money isn't even physical. It's just electronic data whizzing between servers. It's all built on increasingly abstract layers of trust.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me. The power isn't the coin or the data bit itself. It's the psychology. Harari's point is we don't necessarily believe in the dollar bill itself.
Right. We believe that other people believe in it.
Exactly. And that creates this self-fulfilling cycle of trust.
Yeah, it means people who disagree profoundly on gods or politics can still agree on the value of a euro or a yen. It's the one universal story.
So it kind of becomes this great equalizer in a way.
You could say it's the apogee of human tolerance. Money doesn't care about your religion, your background, your gender. Can you pay? Then you're in. That impersonal trust is what allows millions, even billions of complete strangers to cooperate, creates this single global economic playground that no empire or religion ever managed alone.
Okay, so it enables huge cooperation. But did this shift towards trusting money change how we thought about, the future, about growth itself? Because for ages, people saw wealth as kind of fixed, right?
Yeah.
A static pie. If I get more, you must have less. Lending seemed dodgy.
That's a crucial point. That static pie view really held things back. But then around 1500, the scientific revolution brings this new idea, progress, a belief that the future could be better, wealthier.
So trust shifted towards the future.
Exactly. And that unlocked credit. Credit is essentially betting on the future, borrowing imaginary goods that don't exist yet. It's like a time machine for value.
And that fueled modern capitalism.
Absolutely. Think of Queen Isabella funding Columbus, or later how the Dutch and British empires used their superior credit, their ability to borrow based on future prospects, to fund ventures, and even defeat rivals like France.
It sounds incredibly powerful, this unifying force, but there's always a but, isn't there? Does this universal power have a dark side, this ability to put a price on anything? Does it risk eroding things we think shouldn't have a price, like loyalty, honor, love, turning everything into just a market?
That's the really sharp edge of this double-edged sword. Money builds trust, yes, but it's trust in an abstract system, not necessarily in other people. That same impersonality that makes it tolerant also makes it, well, indifferent to morality.
Can you give an example?
Think about the Atlantic slave trade. Horrifying, obviously. But Harari points out it wasn't just about brute force or racist ideology. It was also fueled by cold, hard, unrestrained market forces, turning human beings into commodities, assets on a ledger, purely for profit. It shows how money's greatest strength, its universal convertibility and indifference, can also be its most profound flaw.
Wow. So the story of money really is the story of us, of Sapiens. It's this incredible invention. But yeah, double-edged. It highlights that tension, doesn't it, between our need for huge anonymous cooperation and our need for, real community and connection. So maybe the next time you use money, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, why do I believe this piece of paper or this screen number has value? Remember, it's not the thing itself. It's your faith and everyone else's faith in a shared story. The biggest cooperative network ever built.
And maybe take that thought a step further. Think about where else you place your trust. We trust strangers with our money all the time, right? In shops, online. How does that compare to the trust you build in your community, in your relationships? Think about how you can actively nurture those kinds of trust, the ones based on values that money really can't, and maybe shouldn't, ever buy. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into something really, kind of radical from Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens. It's this idea that the scientific revolution wasn't just about new gadgets or discoveries. It was, maybe surprisingly, a fundamental shift in how humans viewed knowledge itself. Our mission here is to explore how admitting we don't know actually became this incredibly powerful engine for, the entire modern world. So let's unpack this a bit. For, millennia, the assumption was that all the important stuff was already known.
Right.
Contained in old texts or wisdom from sages.
Exactly. The scholar's job was basically interpretation. Yeah. It was a closed system, you could say. Very static.
So if everything important was supposedly already figured out, what did that mean? Stagnation?
Pretty much. Intellectual certainty, yeah, but also not much room for genuine discovery. And what Harari highlights, what's so fascinating, is that the scientific revolution just shattered that. He argues it was launched by this great discovery that humans do not know the answers to their most important questions. Yeah. The new motto became ignoramus. We do not know. And crucially, this wasn't seen as a failure. It became the mandatory starting point. Admitting ignorance was step one.
Okay, so humility becomes the key. A huge shift. But if you admit you don't know, you need ways to find out. Harari talks about a new toolkit, right? Built on, 3 pillars? The first being observation?
Direct empirical observation and experimentation, yes. This constant cycle of questioning, testing, looking at the world directly.
Got it. But just looking isn't enough, I suppose?
Exactly. Raw data needs structure. And that's the second pillar, mathematics. It essentially became the language of science. Precise, concise.
Replacing the old stories and narratives.
Right. An empire, didn't really need a story about a wind god as much as it needed reliable navigation models. Math gave you predictive power. Or a capitalist needing a chemical formula. It offered something concrete.
Makes sense. Observation, math. But was it just about abstract knowledge, or was there a more practical angle?
Oh, definitely. The third pillar Harari points to is utility. A relentless focus on useful knowledge.
Useful how?
Knowledge that could lead to new technologies, new powers. It wasn't just curiosity. It was about gaining capabilities.
Okay, so observation, math, utility. Powerful ideas. But Harari's big argument seems to be about when these forces collide.
Yes, precisely. The convergence of science, empire, and capital. He argues this created this incredibly powerful feedback loop. Maybe the chief engine of history for the last 500 years. They all shared that fundamental outlook, starting from ignorance, wanting to discover, wanting to control.
It's almost a bit chilling how interconnected he makes it sound. How did empire specifically feed into science?
Well, empire provided the funding. Think of Captain Cook's voyages. They weren't just planting flags.
They were mapping coastlines, finding resources.
Exactly, collecting vast amounts of scientific data that was, let's be honest, crucial for colonization and control.
And the flip side, science empowering empire.
Absolutely. Better weapons, much better navigation, think chronometers, and improved medicine, all giving European powers a massive advantage. Harari even points out how science sometimes provided an ideological justification, framing conquest as a civilizing mission.
That's a heavy point. And then capitalism comes in. How did that change the game?
Capitalism added the fuel. Its whole system is built on trust in the future, generating vast amounts of credit.
So credit allowed for those huge risky bets, like Columbus.
Precisely. funding expeditions based on the promise of future profits. That created the definitive loop. Credit funded discovery and conquest, which generated profits and knowledge, which boosted trust, leading to more credit.
And he uses the Dutch Republic as an example. Their focus on repaying debts built that crucial trust.
Yeah, showing that trust, that creditworthiness, could be even more valuable than actual gold or resources. It's a different way of thinking about wealth.
So this whole engine science, empire, capital, what did it actually produce? What changed for people on the ground? Medicine, for instance.
Huge changes. We went from mostly accepting disease to actively fighting it. Germ theory, vaccines, antibiotics. Harari calls it the Gilgamesh Project, this ambition to defeat death.
And energy, too, right? Moving beyond muscle and sunlight?
Yes, the steam engine basically unlocked fossil fuels. An energy conversion revolution, he calls it. Suddenly, we had access to seemingly limitless power.
Even farming changed dramatically. Industrialized agriculture.
Machines, artificial fertilizers, GMOs later on. Massive productivity increases. But Harari adds a sobering note there, too.
The treatment of animals.
Yeah, this drive for efficiency led to treating farm animals almost like machines. A cold indifference, as he puts it. It's one of the darker legacies of that shift towards seeing nature purely as a resource to be mastered. So, thinking about all this, what are the takeaways for you today? First, maybe, is to embrace, I don't know.
That core idea again.
Right. In our age of endless information, a bit of intellectual humility is really useful. Just saying, I'm not sure, isn't weakness. It's the start of real learning, just like it was for the scientific revolution.
And a second point, maybe about questioning the source.
Definitely. Remember, science costs money. It's often funded by groups with specific interests. Political, economic, ideological. That utility aspect is always there.
So ask questions.
Yeah. Who funded this research? What might their goal be? Who benefits? What's the actual evidence behind the claim? Apply that skepticism to science itself, not just with it.
So it's quite a story. The scientific revolution, born from admitting ignorance, unleashed this incredible power. It utterly transformed our world, our relationship with knowledge, with nature.
It really did. And this deep dive, hopefully, shows just how much those historical forces, science, empire, capital, are still shaping our present. I suppose the big question Harari leaves you with is, now that we understand this power, its origins, its complex drivers, how do we choose to use it going forward? Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're unpacking a really radical idea from Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens.
Yeah, the one where he argues capitalism isn't just an economic system.
Exactly. He says it's, well, the most successful religion of the modern world.
Yeah.
And its supreme being growth.
Right. And our mission today, really, is to get under the hood of this creed, how it's built on something totally new, this unwavering trust in the future.
A trust that unlocked credit, basically.
And reshaped everything. We want to explore what it actually means for you, living inside this huge imagined order.
So let's start at the beginning. How did we get here? This idea of a growing economic pie.
Well, for most of history, that wasn't the view at all. Wealth was seen as fixed, like a pie, right? If I get more, you get less. Simple.
Which naturally led to a deep distrust of the future. Why lend money if the pie isn't growing?
Precisely. Credit was super constrained, only really for people who already had wealth.
Until the scientific revolution. That seems to be the turning point Harari identifies.
Yeah, it introduced this concept of progress. The idea that if we admit we don't know everything and invest in research,
we can actually make things better. Increase the total amount of stuff, the pie can grow.
And that belief, that faith in future growth, that's what birthed modern credit.
Harari defines credit as, money representing imaginary goods.
Goods that we trust will exist in the future. Think about the bank example he gives.
Oh, right. The bakery needing $1 million.
Yeah, the bank loans it, and suddenly there's an extra $1 million in the system, based purely on the collective bet that the bakery will succeed and make more money later.
It sounds a bit like magic, but it's just shared imagination, collective trust.
It's definitely not a Ponzi scheme, he stresses that. It's this amazing engine built on human belief. It creates this loop,
Trust leads to credit.
Credit funds new businesses.
Businesses create growth.
And the growth validates the initial trust. It feeds itself.
You see that so clearly in modern venture capital, right? Investing millions in just potential.
Pure potential, sometimes with no expectation of profit for like a decade. It's this adaptable faith.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Trust in growth. But like any belief system, It needs rules, commandments.
And Harari really flags Adam Smith here. Smith did something pretty radical.
Turning vice into virtue.
Kind of, yeah. He argued that pursuing your own private profit wasn't bad. In fact, it was the best way to help everyone. Your greed fuels the collective good.
Egoism is altruism. It's a catchy phrase.
It's a revolutionary reframing. And it came with that first and most sacred commandment, as Harari puts it.
Which is
The profits of production must be reinvested in increasing production. That's the key.
So it's not just about having wealth, like gold sitting in a vault. It's about putting money to work, making more money. That's capital.
Exactly. Keep the cycle going. Profit, reinvest, produce more, profit more, reinvest more, endlessly.
Of course, some critics would say Harari maybe simplifies Smith a bit there, that Smith cared about morality too.
Sure, there's nuance. But the core capitalist ethic Harari describes is that reinvestment drive.
And then there's the other side of the coin, the consumer.
Ah, yes. The brilliant capitalist consumerist ethic. It's like a two-part system.
The elite are told, invest.
And the masses are told, buy. Indulge, desire things, go into debt if you have to.
Because our buying fuels their profits.
Which they then reinvest, according to the first commandment. It's a neat loop.
And Harari argues our very desires get shaped by this system, like romantic consumerism.
Right. You don't just buy a plane ticket to Paris, you buy the experience, the story that this trip will change you, fulfill you.
A concept totally alien to, say, an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. He built pyramids, not bought experiences.
Or look at fast fashion. It's a stark example. 52 micro-seasons a year. Clothes designed to fall apart.
Leading to that shocking statistic. A garbage truck of textiles landfilled or burned every single second.
Yeah. It shows the sheer relentless drive of the system, fueled by that buy commandment.
Okay, so let's try to balance the books here. Capitalism's track record. The good.
Unprecedented economic growth, no question. Efficiency, innovation, incredible variety of goods and services.
But the bad. Harari doesn't pull punches. He links unrestrained market forces directly to things like the Atlantic slave trade.
He does. And he points to ongoing structural inequality. Think about recent Oxfam data, billionaire wealth soaring while extreme poverty barely budges. A lot of that wealth coming from inheritance or monopolies, not just pure innovation.
Plus, the system often ignores costs that don't fit on a balance sheet.
Exactly, like pollution, environmental destruction. These are externalities the market doesn't easily price.
Which leads to this really mind-bending final point Harari raises.
The irony, right? Capitalism needs constant growth, so it funds the next big things, AI, biotech.
Potentially financing its own disruption. Or even, he speculates, a future where humanity itself splits into different biological castes.
It's a chilling thought that the system driving us might be creating its own successor, or ours.
So, given all this, how can you, the listener, navigate this world more consciously?
Well, one practical thing is to analyze your consumption. Before you buy something non-essential, pause. Ask yourself, am I buying a product or am I buying the story attached to it?
Like separating the flight from the promise of a life-changing experience.
Precisely. Or asking if this new phone is just a tool or if you're buying the story of being cutting edge. Creating that space helps break the impulsive buy command.
The second takeaway is about redefining capital.
Yes. Apply that core capitalist principle reinvestment to yourself. Think of your time, your attention, your skills as your personal capital.
Don't just spend them on things that depreciate, like mindlessly scrolling social media.
Right. Invest them in assets that appreciate. Learning something new, reading a book, developing a skill. Treat your personal growth like a form of capital reinvestment.
So, understanding capitalism as this powerful, imagined order helps you see the matrix, essentially.
It helps you navigate it, maybe make more conscious choices within it.
Which leaves us with that final, lingering question for you to consider. What could it mean for your future if the very system we live in, this engine of growth, is potentially funding a future that looks radically different from today? How do you engage consciously with a creed that puts growth above almost everything else?
So today, we're diving into the Industrial Revolution. It's one of those moments in history, right? Yuval Noah Harari even calls it a second agricultural revolution. Huge stuff.
Absolutely huge. And it's often seen as this mixed blessing. Massive power unleashed, sure, but also some, well, pretty strange consequences for people and the planet.
Yeah, that's what we want to unpack, how it fundamentally changed our whole relationship with Earth, energy, time, even how connected we all became.
It really comes down to those core things. Energy, how we perceive and use time, and the forging of this global village. It fundamentally altered our species' metabolism, if you think about it.
Okay, let's start with energy then. Before all this industry stuff, we were basically stuck in what Harari calls a closed energy loop, right?
Exactly. Everything came down to the sun pretty much in real time. Plants capture sunlight, animals and humans eat plants, we use muscle power. That was it.
So energy was scarce and
Right.
stuck in one place. You couldn't, I don't know, use the heat from your cooking fire to grind your grain.
Precisely. Heat was heat, motion was motion. They weren't really convertible. And it put a real limit on what societies could do. Then came the great unlocking.
The steam engine.
The steam engine. Its genius was turning heat into motion, breaking free from muscle power entirely. And crucially, it let us tap into this immense underground stash.
Fossil fuels,
Ooh.
coal, oil, gas.
Millions of years of stored sunshine, basically. Suddenly, energy wasn't scarce anymore. It was portable, versatile, almost limitless compared to before. We weren't living off the sun's daily income. We'd found Earth's ancient savings account.
Wow, okay, so that's a massive metabolic shift. And you can draw a direct line from that to, well, the Anthropocene, climate change, all the environmental issues we're grappling with now.
Definitely. And it wasn't just energy. At the same time, you had agriculture getting industrialized. Fewer people needed on farms.
Meaning more people available to work in the new factories, which were pumping out goods like never before.
Right. So much stuff, which actually created a new kind of problem. Not scarcity of goods, but maybe scarcity of demand.
Huh. You mean, how do you get people to buy all this factory output when maybe traditional values were more about saving, being frugal?
Exactly that. So a new ethic had to emerge, almost a new gospel, Harari calls it, consumerism. The idea that buying things, consuming services, that's the path to happiness.
And it gets kind of sophisticated, right? This romantic consumerism, it's not just buying a product, it's buying an experience. Like tourism selling you a trip to Paris to find yourself.
Precisely. It cleverly merges consumption with this idea of personal growth or fulfillment. But there's a bit of a trap there, isn't there?
You mean the paradox. Working longer hours, maybe at jobs we don't love, to buy things that promise escape or save time.
Only those time-saving things often just create new demands, new needs. It's a cycle. You buy the washing machine, now you need detergent, softener, or maybe you wash clothes more often.
It feeds itself. Which, thinking ahead, leads to Harari's pretty chilling question about AI and automation. If machines do all the work, what's left for humans? Just consuming. Does that create a useless class?
It's a deeply unsettling thought about where this trajectory might lead. And it wasn't just what we did, but when. Time itself got revolutionized.
Right. Before factories, time was looser, local, based on the sun, the seasons, task-oriented work.
Yeah, nobody cared if you started at 8:03 a.m. But line up hundreds of workers in a factory. You need synchronization. Precision. Suddenly, work isn't about the task finished, it's about the hours logged. Punctuality becomes a massive virtue.
And then the railways. They needed everyone on the same schedule to avoid, well, crashing. So they imposed standardized time zones, Greenwich Mean Time in Britain, for instance. Suddenly, the whole nation is on one clock.
And the key thing is, we internalized it, this abstract, chopped-up time. We started worrying of wasting time. Efficiency became king. Owning a pocket watch was a status symbol. It subtly disconnected us from natural rhythms, day-night seasons.
And imposed this industrial rhythm instead. Wow. Okay, so energy transformed, consumerism born, time standardized, and all this tied the world together. The global village idea.
Absolutely. Steam power again. Railways slashed the time and cost of moving goods overland. Steamships did the same for oceans, making journeys predictable, faster. That's the foundation of global trade as we know it.
And then communication itself detached from transport. The telegraph.
The Victorian Internet. Suddenly, a message could cross continents, oceans, almost instantly. This created global financial markets, global news agencies like Reuters. The world shrank incredibly fast.
But it wasn't all good news, this connection. It had a dark side.
Definitely a double-edged sword. While it connected the world, it also fueled the Great Divergence, that massive gap that opened up between the industrialized nations, mostly the West, and the rest of the world. It enabled colonial exploitation on a new scale, creating inequalities that, frankly, still shape our world today.
So much legacy packed into that era. Which brings us to a takeaway for you listening.
Yeah, maybe think about your own relationship with time. How much of your schedule is driven by these inherited industrial demands versus your own choices?
Like a personal time audit, see where it's actually going.
Could be useful. Are you using time, or is it just getting spent? Maybe try. just experimentally, creating time-free zones. A weekend without constantly checking the clock. Or consciously reconnecting with natural time, notice the sunset, the phase of the moon.
Just to reclaim a little bit of that pre-industrial sense of time. Interesting.
It's about awareness, really.
So wrapping up the Industrial Revolution, it's undeniably that mixed blessing. Unbelievable leaps in our collective power, wealth, technology.
But huge costs.
Yeah.
Environmental damage we're still reckoning with, social upheaval, massive inequalities, and maybe surprisingly, not much solid proof that individual happiness actually increased overall.
Which leaves us with that big, sobering question from Harari.
Yeah. We have gained the power of gods, but have we acquired the wisdom and responsibility that should accompany such power?
Something to think about. This complex inheritance is ours now, and figuring out how to build a more humane, sustainable future with it, well, that's the challenge.
Okay, let's dive in. You've gathered some really fascinating sources for us today, all circling this really big idea.
Right. It's about how humanity went from thousands of separate little worlds to, well, increasingly one single global civilization.
Scattered groups, isolated. Most didn't even know others existed for millennia.
Exactly. And Yuval Noah Harari in Sapiens, he makes this bold claim. History is moving relentlessly toward unity. That's the core idea.
So our mission for this deep dive is exploring those big sweeping forces pulling us together.
Precisely. And we also need to tackle a pretty deep paradox that sits right at the heart of this whole story of unification.
Okay, so Harari says history has this direction. Where did it start? Not like someone planned global unity from day one.
No, definitely not. He talks about these first visionaries, merchants, conquerors, prophets, people who started thinking beyond their own little group.
They imagined humanity as like one potential thing.
Yeah, a single unit. Even if it was just for trade or conquest or conversion, they started weaving the first threads.
So how did this actually happen on a grand scale? Harari points to three main drivers, right?
Yes, the three great unifiers, as he puts it, empires, money, and universal religions or ideologies. And crucially, they didn't work in isolation.
They fed into each other.
Absolutely, a kind of self-reinforcing system. Let's maybe start with empires. They were the main political setup for, 2,500 years?
Right. But empires mean conquest, violence.
Yeah.
It seems odd to call them unifiers or creators of culture.
Well, that's the paradox Harari highlights. Despite their often brutal beginnings, empires were engines of unification. Think about it.
How so?
They spread common languages like Latin across Europe. They imposed standardized laws. They built infrastructure. Roman roads are the classic example.
Things that connected people across vast areas.
Exactly. And they spread unifying ideologies. He even points out that the political unity of modern India, for instance, is largely a legacy of the British Raj. Empires created these large-scale blueprints.
Okay, that makes sense. Then number two, money.
Money. Harari calls it the most universal and most efficient system of mutual trust ever devised, which is quite a statement.
Why trust?
Because total strangers, maybe a Christian and a Muslim, as he suggests, who might deeply distrust each other personally, they'll both happily use the same gold coin or dollar bill.
Right. You don't trust the person, you trust the money itself, the system.
Exactly. It transcends cultural and religious divides in a really fundamental way. It created the first truly global sphere where everyone could sort of play by the same rules.
Okay. Empires laying political groundwork, money creating an economic one. What's the third unifier?
Universal religions. And Harari extends this to modern secular ideologies, too.
What makes them universal?
Unlike earlier local cults tied to specific places or peoples, these big religions, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, saw the entire human race as potential believers. They were inherently expansionist.
They aimed for everybody.
Yes.
Yep.
And they often provided the justification, the legitimacy for empires. Think of emperors claiming divine right or spreading the faith through conquest.
And you said Harari includes modern ideologies here.
He does. Things like liberalism, communism, capitalism. They also function as universal missionary belief systems, each claiming to hold the key to organizing human society globally.
So you have these three forces.
Yeah.
How do they actually work together? You mentioned a system.
Yeah, a powerful feedback loop. Empires provided the stability and security for trade routes to flourish.
Making commerce easier.
Right. And those trade routes, carrying goods and money, also carried ideas, religious beliefs, political philosophies.
So commerce spreads ideology.
And then ideology often legitimized the empires. The Roman Empire adopting Christianity is a perfect example. Empire supports commerce, commerce spreads ideology, ideology supports empire.
Wow. Okay, so this relentless drive towards unity. It sounds powerful, maybe even inevitable. But you mentioned a paradox earlier.
Yes, here's the twist. This very process of unification has led to a massive loss of human diversity. Thousands of unique local cultures, languages, traditions, they get eroded or completely wiped out.
A precipitous drop, as Harari puts it. That's the downside.
It is, and this is where it gets really interesting conceptually. Harari argues that many things holding our world together, money, laws, nations, human rights, are actually intersubjective realities.
Meaning?
They're essentially shared fictions, imagined orders. They don't exist physically like a tree or a river. They exist only because millions, now billions of us believe in them collectively.
Like Voltaire's quip about God being necessary for social order, even if not real.
Kind of, yeah. These shared beliefs, these fictions, are incredibly powerful. They're what allow complex, large-scale human cooperation. Without believing in money or law, society collapses.
But does this mean the emerging global culture is just bland?
Yeah.
One size fits all?
Harari argues no, not necessarily a monoculture. It's more like a metaculture or maybe a superstructure. It allows for and even encourages cultural fusion and hybridization.
Okay, so not replacement, but blending.
Exactly. Think about things like Vietnamese banh mi sandwiches, French baguettes meet Vietnamese fillings, or the global explosion of K-pop blending Korean culture with global music trends. It's more complex than simple erasure.
A global tapestry, weaving different threads together.
A good way to put it. And now this whole unification process is being kicked into high gear by, well, global crises.
Things that affect everyone, everywhere.
Precisely. Harari calls them problems without passports, nuclear threats, ecological collapse, especially climate change, and massive technological disruption from AI or bioengineering.
Challenges no single nation can possibly solve alone.
Right. Suddenly, my country first doesn't just sound selfish, it sounds actively self-defeating. You can't build a wall against climate change or AI's impact.
The COVID pandemic really drove that home, didn't it?
It was a perfect, painful test case. We saw amazing global scientific collaboration developing vaccines at record speed, but politically.
A lot of nationalists squabbling, hoarding, blaming.
A political failure, largely. But it undeniably highlighted just how interconnected we are and how much we need global cooperation, even if we struggle to achieve it.
And climate change is maybe the ultimate example. It forces us to think as one species on one planet.
It really does. It demands we act with a shared interest in survival, transcending borders. It's perhaps the most powerful, unifying force we face right now, albeit a terrifying one.
Okay, so given all this massive historical trend, these modern pressures, what does it mean for us, for you listening? What are the takeaways?
Well, first, it's about how you engage with the world. Be critical about global news. Don't just consume headlines, diversify your sources. Ask how and why a story is being framed.
Try to see the connections, like how local food prices might link back to global trade or climate events.
Exactly. Trace those chains. Question the narrative. Whose perspective is centered? Whose is missing?
And the second takeaway?
Actively embrace cultural exchange. And this doesn't mean you need to book an expensive flight tomorrow.
Start local.
Yeah. Go to a cultural festival in your city, explore different neighborhoods, try fusion food, Korean tacos, whatever. Engage online language exchanges, follow artists from other countries.
Watch foreign films, read translated books.
Consume media mindfully. And if you do travel, maybe aim for experiences like homestays or volunteering, things that foster genuine connection rather than just surface-level tourism.
So it's about recognizing we're part of this huge interconnected system.
We are. This whole deep dive shows we've been woven into this single, incredibly complex global tapestry, often by these huge forces, empires, money, crises, way beyond any one person's control.
So the big question hanging in the air is, we see the trend, often driven by crisis. Can humanity actually choose deeper unification proactively now, to shape our future rather than just reacting?
That really is the question, isn't it?
And maybe what role do you, the listener, play in consciously weaving those threads of our global village day by day?
That's all for this episode of the Deep Dive Cast. Thanks for joining us. We hope you gained some valuable insights. Be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into the world's best ideas. Until then, Keep learning and growing.